Hello, welcome, and thank you for clicking on this video. In this video, I'm going to be going over custom woodworking. If you're starting a woodworking business, I'm going to give you some tips and advice on how to do that. So I'm going to be going over 4 subjects. Going over custom woodworking. So that's to include designs, how to talk to clients, what you should ask and what you shouldn't say. Going over material, what you should get and how much should you get. New projects. If you're going to be taking on new projects all the time, meaning you're not making the same thing over and over, then I'm going to share my experiences on taking on things that I've never made before and how to prepare for that. Lastly, I'll be talking about pricing, how to price your work fairly. Custom woodworking. When I started woodworking, I started sharing things that I would make, and friends and family would reach out to me and ask me, hey, can you make this for me? And they would show me a picture of something and they would ask, how much would it be for you to make this for me? Now I'm going to advise to never give an answer right away. There's a lot of things you need to find out first about this project. You need to find out what are their desires and wishes for this project. How do they want it to look in the end? Do they want it to look natural, like natural wood? Do they want the wood a certain color? Do they want it painted? Like what kind of finish do they want? Then you need to ask what are the dimensions? Hopefully they know exact dimensions, but rough dimensions is okay. Is there a time frame for this project? How soon do they need it by? Or is it at your leisure? You also need to go over the design thoroughly with them. Make sure that they understand every aspect of how it's going to look in the end to prevent any problems later. An experience that I had was that I did not get all my questions answered. The final project was done, it was picked up, and already with the client in their space. I got reached out to later that day saying, hey, can you come fix this? Can you make it look like the other one? So if you have any questions at all while you're making the thing, make sure you get it answered. Don't be afraid, don't be shy to ask. It's better to take that extra time to get it answered now rather than having to go back. I had to go back to their place and fix it or change it to what they wanted, and I had to do that for free. So it's better to take 2 minutes to ask rather than 2 hours later of your time. So make sure you guys understand the design and are okay with it. I draw out everything that I'm going to make. I make a plan, a blueprint of the build. Now you probably do this too. So this is where I draw out my builds before I execute them. I think it's important to draw all these things out. It'll help you be structured and prepared when you start the build. You're drawing out all the parts of it, the dimensions. There's also SketchUp. That's something that I haven't taken the time to learn. I'm just like a little intimidated because like, oh, I have to learn this now. I have to learn something else. I have no experience with it, so you let me know. If you use SketchUp, let me know. What's also really great is that I love looking back on my sketchbook and being like, wow, I made everything that's in here. I just think that's so cool. You also need to know their budget. Now, I recommend asking this later, like one of the last things that you ask. You don't want to start off right away with saying, oh, well, what is your budget? You might make them feel like you're trying to get as much money from them as possible. Find out what they want first. Everything that I said already, get those questions answered and then ask, what is your budget? Then you can go over like realistically what we're able to do with that money. Now I'm gonna go over material. Now that you have a lot of your questions answered, now you know what material that you need. I always do this because I've learned the hard way to always get more material than you think that you need. If you can afford it, no, not even. I would account for that in the budget when you give the person the quote. Make sure that you get more material than needed. Just at least a couple boards more. When you're working on a new project, you might mess up, you might cut too much, or you might not have bought enough wood in the first place. Another experience that I had was that I just didn't get enough material, and I already quoted the client. So unfortunately, I had to go out of pocket to get the remainder of the material to complete the project. So just try your best to go over the dimensions and the pricing of things as thoroughly as possible to prevent that from happening. You might be able to ask the client, I need some more money for material, but that's just an awkward situation to put both of yourselves in, which is why I recommend to always get a little more material than needed. It's better to be safe and already have that paid for than to be in a situation where you have to go out of pocket. You just don't want to do that. So get extra material is my advice. When taking on new projects, I recommend taking on things that excite you, things that you would want to make. If you're taking on anything and everything in the beginning, I do understand you're a beginner and you want to learn and grow, which is great. But don't always do that. The more experience that you get, you only want to be taking on things that excite you, because then what you love, woodworking, turns into a chore. So just be careful with that. If you are taking on this project and it's something that you've never made before, I recommend, if you have the time, to make a prototype. So this is a prototype of the dining booth project that I took on last year. I was approached to make dining booths, and I've never made those before. I've never even made a chair or a bench before. So what I did to learn and to get an idea of how to make it was I made a prototype. I just used material that I had on hand to get a feel of how to make this, and you'll use as little material as possible. So make yourself a model, and then you'll understand the structure, how to approach it. Then this will also help you figure out how much material to buy. Now this order was a big order. They wanted 10 dining booths. So I was like, how much wood do I get? You have to just go over a lot of numbers based off of the dimensions that they give you, and you need to know what material that you want to use for it. Then you just have to like extrapolate that, you know? What I also did was, to gain more confidence in this build, was I sought help. It's good to seek help from other woodworkers if you don't know or if you're not confident in your build. I went to my local wood shop to get a private consultation with a woodworker who has experience in making banquet seating or seating that is similar. Now that time was invaluable. The person went over the design with me, told me what they would change, what they liked, what material that they would use, and how to approach like certain cuts. That was extremely helpful. I left with my design with more confidence because someone who has experience making this approved of it, and they told me what I could do to make it better. Now I did pay for that out of pocket, but that's an investment that I wanted to make for myself so that I could improve and approach this big project with confidence. Don't forget, you could always ask for help from other people. Pricing. How to price your projects is a little tricky. It's something that you have to get a feel for as you go, especially as a beginner. A good rule is the cost of materials times 2. Some people even do more than that. They might add like a percentage on top of that. But if you're a beginner, I think you should stick to charging what you think is fair. What would you pay for that? Doing the cost of materials times 2 also doesn't always work. Say you're hired to make like a birdhouse, and the material to buy the birdhouse was only like 10 bucks. Now you're not gonna charge 20 bucks for your labor to make it. So it doesn't always work. That rule could just help you get a start, like a ballpark of what you want to charge for your project, but I think you should charge what you think is fair. I know that's a very vague answer, but the more that you build and the more custom work that you do, the more you will get a feel for how to price your work. How much time does it take you to make that? You're gonna learn that. And how much do you want to charge an hour ideally? Now, I am not a professional. You are not a professional, most likely. So I don't think we should be charging professional prices, which is why I say to charge what you think is fair. So always consider how much time do you need to make it, how much material was used, and what do you think is a fair price for your labor. Only quote them after you have all the questions answered. So if you quote them and they don't like the number, you could either just move on, because a lot of people don't realize that custom woodworking can be expensive. It's not like going to IKEA. Like, the amount that you're going to quote them is probably going to be way more than they expect. And if they're not willing to pay that, well, you're not doing your work for free. You should move on. But if this is a project that really excites you and you want to build it, what you can do is just tell them to cover the cost of materials, and that's it. That way you get the experience making this thing, and you get to build your portfolio, and you still have a happy customer. Now, some things that I forgot to mention is that once you have agreed on a price, that you need a down payment of at least the cost of materials. You need this to buy everything to start the project. Now, you could also add in a percentage of the cost of your labor if you want, like 20-30%. It's up to you and whatever you guys agree upon. So at least get the cost of materials to start, and the remaining amount for your labor will be due when the project is delivered or when they pick it up. Now, you also are going to have to make invoices. That's something I realized after my first project. I was like, oh, I need like written records of what I'm doing. So luckily there's already free templates available on Google. Just Google free invoice template. It's very easy. All you have to do is just fill in the blanks. And then it turns into a free downloadable PDF. Now on the invoices, it also can have sections for notes, terms and conditions. So on that invoice that you send for the cost of materials, you can also add in the notes section that the remainder amount of labor will be due on this date or when it's picked up, whatever you guys decide. So there's free invoice templates, and at least get the cost of materials to start. And another thing, you might be asked to fill out a W-9. Now, a W-9 it's to get taxpayer information from the individual who received money from a business. So that's basically what it is. Now, when I was delivering the dining booths, since I was doing it for a business, for a restaurant, they had me fill out a W-9. Now, when I saw that, I got scared because that means I'm going to have to pay taxes. I'm not here to give any tax advice, but what I'm going to say is that you might encounter having to fill out a W-9, and you just have to do it because that business needs to keep track of what they spend their money on too. Now, what you need to do is to keep track of all your expenses on your business to help when you file your taxes later. Back to the video. I don't consider myself a professional woodworker at all. I don't solely do custom work. I take them on occasionally, and over the years I have done quite a few projects. So I'm just sharing my experiences so that hopefully they can help you at some point. So if you have any suggestions, or if you have much more experience than I do, please share it in the comments so that we could share our knowledge with other woodworkers and help each other. So just to recap real quick, make sure you ask as many questions and have all your questions answered. Do not quote right away, only until after you have all of your answers. Make sure you guys are on the same page as far as the design. If you're doing a lot of custom work, either take on projects that excite you, price it fairly, and if it's something that really excites you, but it might be out of that person's budget, you can have them pay for only the cost of materials. That way you get the experience making that project, and then you also have a happy customer. Now, don't take on things that are way out of your expertise, but do push yourself. It's really fun and exciting to have that challenge to learn and grow from. So thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions, please put it in the comments so that we can help each other grow and build better. Thank you for watching.